And thank everyone for their attendance. We'll begin with the invocation by the Reverend Jeff Elliott, pastor of New Covenant Presbyterian Church. If everyone would rise for the invocation. And Reverend, before the invocation, I'm going to read a letter, and then I'd also ask if you could have a couple of moments of silence before you do the invocation. Yes, sir. And after the invocation, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. If I read this letter first, please, and this is to the mayor of Charlottesville that went out yesterday. Dear Mayor Signer, there are few places in our Commonwealth that represent democracy more than the city of Charlottesville and the campus of the University of Virginia. There are few places that are more tolerant of and committed to defending individuals' rights to free speech. And there are few places that have historically demonstrated greater resolve in resisting threats to our democracy. The devastating events that occurred in your great city over the weekend are painful reminders that we still have much work to do as a community, as a state, and as a country to drive out hatred, bigotry, and violence. This one day of unrest does not define your city, but it has set the stage for your city to help define what resilience, leadership, and unity look like. You have already begun that process, even while you grieve those killed and injured. I commend you, Mayor Signer, for your unequivocal denunciation of the kind of bigotry and violence we saw this past weekend. It might have happened in Charlottesville, but it touches all of us. Please know that the residents in Virginia Beach stand with you and the residents of Charlottesville. United, we will overcome this latest threat to our democracy. Hatred and bigotry will not be allowed to gain any foothold here. However we can be of service to you in the days and weeks to come, I hope you will call on us to assist. Sincerely, William D. Sessoms, Jr., Mayor of the City of Virginia Beach.
Let's pray. God of all creation, we come before you tonight to ask your blessing on this meeting of our city council. We give you the respect and acknowledge you that you are our creator and our provider. You are the one who's omnipresent. You're everywhere, Lord. You're omnipotent. You have all power. You are omniscient. You know everything. And as this meeting takes place, we ask that you, who have established and flourished and blessed this city of Virginia Beach, that you would guide the thoughts and the actions of the city council so they would lead and guide with wisdom and discernment that's indicative of your grace, that your hand would be evident. And as we've just heard in this letter, we've seen this tragedy in our sister city of Charlottesville, and we ask for your mercy on those who have been harmed. We pray that you'd give great wisdom to the leaders of that city. Here in this city, we have hundreds of thousands of citizens with much diversity. So we pray that you'd protect us. Only you change hearts, Lord. We pray that you'd give us open ears and open hearts towards those with whom we disagree the most. Give us civil dialogue. We thank you for venues such as this, where we can speak and agree and disagree and walk out shoulder to shoulder. We pray that, thank you for the freedom you've given us to declare and defend ideas. We pray for the council that you help them to accomplish their goals while displaying your character. We ask that you would establish justice and righteousness in the council's dealings and mercy and the care for the underprivileged in ways that mirror your perfect justice, righteousness, and mercy. We thank you that you satisfied your justice and mercy in sending your Son. And it's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor, for coming in. We appreciate it very much. We have the roll call. Do I have a motion for the certification?
Yes, Your Honor, and Mr. Moss is absent on a family vacation.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion for the approval of the
So moved.
certification of the closed session?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 10-0, you have approved the
Do I have a motion
consent
to approve
agenda.
of the minutes of August 1st, 2017?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
With Mrs. Wilson abstaining, the vote is 9-0 to approve the minutes as submitted.
Now, I'd like to make some presentations, if I may, council. First, there's a Boy Scout from Troop 471, if he could stand and be recognized. We're glad to have you here. And next, this is a sign that summer is coming to an end. We have the presentation of King Neptune, Stacy Cummings and his court, and I believe Bill Lascara is going to be doing the introductions. Bill, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Sessoms, Honorable Mayor Jones, Honorable Councilwomen and men. My name is Bill Lascara. I am the 2017 Celebration Chair for the Neptune Festival, and it's my honor and pleasure to introduce the 2017 Royal Court of King Neptune to you. First, starting with the Tritons, Jason A. Deans, partner of BDO USA. Taylor Franklin, COO of the Franklin Johnson Group. T. Richard Ricky Franz, Vice President, Commercial Banking, Union Bank and Trust. Jeffrey A. Hunn, Pender and Coward. Jay Kenslow, Senior Vice President, Commercial Banking, PNC Bank. J.T. McDonald, Senior Vice President, Town Bank. Ramsey S. Smith, President, Pembroke Commercial Realty. Now it's also my great honor and pleasure to introduce to you King Neptune 44, Stacy Cummings, and his lady, Ahmed.
Well, we welcome you. We're delighted to have each and every one of you here. Stacy,
Thank you very much. Just a few short remarks.
please.
Good. Mr. Mayor, King Neptune 24, it was 20 years ago. Where's the time gone?
I had hair.
Members of City Council and staff, several of you who are members of the Neptune Royal Order, we want to thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. As the Royal Court for the 44th Annual Neptune Festival, we are honored and have but one mission, and that is to represent the city of Virginia Beach and welcome the hundreds of thousands of locals, vacationers, business leaders who will fill our hotels, eat in our restaurants, shop in our stores, and enjoy our beach and hospitality during the summer-long celebration of our city. This year, the Neptune Festival has partnered with several local nonprofit organizations to which we give our support, including Achievable Dream, EquiKids, Governor's School for the Arts, Toby's Dream, the Virginia Beach Police Foundation, and the Virginia Beach Rotary and J.C.'s. Before you stands the youngest court in the history of the Neptune Festival. While young in age, these gentlemen represent the leadership of some of the region's most respected businesses. They have already distinguished themselves not only in business, but in civic and benevolent areas as well. All but one or two are Virginia Beach born and bred, and all of us have chosen to raise our families in this wonderful city. I think I can speak for all of us when I say we humbly encourage you to continue leading our city with an eye on the future, using your vision, knowledge, and courage to invest in our schools, protective services, technology, and infrastructure, so that not only will new businesses be attracted to come here, but our greatest resource, our children, will be inspired to use their creativity and entrepreneurial spirit to remain here and to continue to make Virginia Beach the greatest city in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, King. I know I speak on behalf of the entire council. We hope your reign as king and the festival is super, and I know it will be. I thank each and every one of you for what you have done to make the city what it is today. And may God bless you putting up with all these people. I know you'll do great, but it is just an honor to have y'all come down and take the time to say hello to us today. And again, I can't believe that the Neptune Festival is right here on us, and we look forward to a great festival under your leadership, King.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Patty Phillips, come forward, please.
He's coming in short, buddy. He's giving away gold.
Oh, man, gold.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So where are the princesses this year?
They're home doing their homework.
School hasn't started yet.
They're
doing
they're
the
high achievers.
AP stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and congratulations.
Patty, if you'll come on forward. Thank you guys all for coming down. And this is something that occurs on an annual basis now because our finance department, under the leadership of Patty Phillips, does such a great job, and it's the excellence in financial planning.
Thank you,
Are you
young
running
lady.
out of wall space? All these
very
I did want to say that this is a 36 year, and I have not been doing this for 36 years, at least not in this job, that the city has received this award. And it is really a testament, it's the highest recognition you can get for governmental accounting financial reporting. I think it's a testament to all of you all that enables us to get this done, and I think it also reflects full disclosure for our citizens and our bondholders and for you all. So we take it very seriously in getting it ready. I think it helps us make our AAA bond rating. And I did want to recognize there's a few people out, Mr. Don Barnett, the city's controller.
Right.
Ms. Marion Woodson, who is the principal accountant, Mr. Kevin Kilbasa, who is a senior accountant. There are many others, Andrew Oliver, Stacy Hirschberger, Trish Donahue, many people on the team that enable us to get this. So thank you for this recognition.
No, Patty, and to your entire staff, we thank you all for what you do each day. I often say, and I think everyone will back me, if we're not financially sound, we're not going to get anything done. And y'all have been a big part of making sure this city is financially sound, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have the representative from the United Way of Hampton Roads? Yes, we do. We welcome you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Kurt Hoflick. I'm the United Way Board Vice Chair and the President of Centerra Norfolk General Hospital by day.
But you make all the money in Virginia Beach.
Well, we do very well in Virginia Beach. Proud to serve the city.
No, you're a great hospital.
I'm proud to be here on behalf of a very grateful community this evening to say thank you. The city of Virginia Beach leads the community, the region, the state in so many ways with so many accomplishments. We are here tonight to acknowledge yet another way that this city sets a pace and example for others. We count on city employees to keep us safe, to help us in times of trouble, to build our roads, maintain our public parks, buildings, and provide a safe and wholesome environment for our families. We are very much dependent on city employees for our quality of life, and Virginia Beach provides a wonderful quality of life for its citizens. This year, under the leadership of City Manager Dave Hansen, who challenged the city staff to a very aggressive goal of $250,000 fundraising campaign this year, and the Virginia Beach United Way Committee, your employees have gone beyond their day-to-day responsibilities. Last year, contributing $253,801
Wow,
for
that's
the
huge.
good of the Southampton Roads community,
That's
exceeding the
great.
goal. So let's give them a hand. So your city chair, committee chairs this year, we have Joe Scott, who's here this evening with his lovely wife. And we have Michelle Bailey Pittman, who's here with her family. Michelle.
you.
And we have Jane Sawyer, who I believe could not be with us this evening, but all three did a wonderful job leading the campaign this year. Over the past 5 years, the city employees have contributed $1,271,000 to benefit this community. Serving, giving, and providing is part of the fabric of this city, and you are all to be commended. This generosity means a lot of people in our community have counted on you, and you've come through to help them through a very tough time. And for that, we want to say thank you, and on behalf of them, present you with this small token of our appreciation with your $250,000 achievement.
Great. Mr. Chairman, you come up here, I'm going to present this to you. And, as he comes up here, I've been going to these lunches now for a number of years, and even during the recession, we've these employees who weren't getting any raises and stuff like that were sacrificing in the $250,000 a year amount of money. And to me, I can't thank you enough for just showing the type of quality people that we have working for this city that care about other people. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Kurt, thank you for coming down.
Michelle.
Okay. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that the City Council speaker policy that allows certain representatives of groups to speak for 10 minutes applies only to the planning items and items where a public hearing is required by state law. As to all other items on the agenda, each speaker, whether speaking individually or on behalf of a group, will have 3 minutes to speak. And I will now move to the consent agenda now,
You want to
please.
do the bid open?
Is there a bid opening?
Well, I can.
I need to add this. At what
Okay.
point do I do that?
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We'll do the add-on right now. Would you please do the add-on?
Right. I do need to ask that this resolution be added on, and I'll read it very, very quickly. It's a resolution to maintain a buffer of vegetation adjacent to the lake of the property owned by the City of Virginia Beach on Upton Drive, adjacent to the proposed hospice house at Southampton Roads. Whereas the City of Virginia Beach is contemplating the sale of property on Upton Drive to the hospice house of Southampton Roads Hospice House, and whereas the property to be acquired by Hospice House is to be created by the subdivision of a larger parcel of property owned by the city, and the remaining adjacent property, known as the adjacent parcel, will be available for sale after the subdivision. And whereas City Council supports the efforts of all citizens in the city to maintain vegetated buffers adjacent to waterways to improve water quality, minimize erosion, and provide aesthetic benefits. And whereas the city, at the request of the adjacent residential neighborhood, has planted and maintains live oak trees on the adjacent parcel and desires this buffer of live oak trees to continue to be maintained even after the potential sale of the adjacent parcel. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Virginia Beach, Virginia, that it is the desire of City Council that the buffer of live oaks on the adjacent parcel be maintained and replaced by the city while the property is owned by the city, and to ensure that the buffer is maintained when and if the property is sold to any other entity for any purpose, adopted by the City Council of Virginia Beach on this date.
Is that a motion?
Yes, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the question, please.
By a vote of 10-0, you have added to the agenda the resolution read by Mrs. Henley.
Council, I think I need to go to the public hearing for the non-exclusive franchise use of Mobilite LLC and New Singular Wireless PCS LLC. Are
I
these
have one speaker.
one speaker?
Have you done the bid opening yet, Your Honor?
Don't I have to do a public hearing before I do that?
I would think that would be the correct order.
Well, thank you. If there's a speaker on it.
Barbara Messner.
We welcome you tonight.
Good evening. I wasn't aware that the Neptune people would be here, but I appreciate the fact that you didn't have the entire court, which takes up a lot of seating. And most people know I call it the King of Nepotism event, not Neptune. Okay, it's my 3 minutes, Mr. Sessoms. On the
On
cell
the subject,
towers.
ma'am.
I am. On the cell towers, I don't know how many people are aware how many cell towers y'all have approved and how many people have come here to oppose them because they're very dangerous when they're placed anywhere near schools, homes, and businesses. And I also want to know, anyone who's voting, do any of you have stock in the bank who will be financing or the cell companies? Thank you, that's all.
Thank you for your comments. I will now do the bid opening This is bids for non-exclusive franchise pursuant to Virginia Code Section 15.2-2102. The chair will now summarize the bids that have been received for a proposed non-exclusive franchise to use and occupy the city's streets and public right-of-ways for the purpose of constructing, installing, and maintaining wireless communication facilities and infrastructure. 3 bids have been received as follows. Mobilite LLC and New Singular Wireless PCS LLC have each bid 10-year franchise term with 3 options to renew for 5 years each, $1,000 one-time fee for each small cell attachment to a new pole. Cellco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, has timely submitted a bid but did not provide proposed terms for their franchise until this morning. Accordingly, staff is currently reviewing Cellco's proposal and anticipates bringing to this council for public hearing on September 5th. Are there any other persons desiring to submit a bid at this time? There being no further bids, the bidding is closed. City staff has evaluated the bids received by Mobilite LLC and New Circular Wireless PCS LLC. It recommends that both companies be granted a non-exclusive franchise. City staff further recommends that the public hearing and vote for Cellco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless be deferred until September 5th, 2017, to give the parties additional time to review Cellco's proposed bid. We will now open a public hearing for the proposed franchises for use of that right-of-way, which we've already done. Now, I will also open a public hearing on the declaration and conveyance of excess city property Upton Drive near Nemo Parkway to the Hospice House of Southampton Roads. Are there any speakers on that?
Yes, Your Honor, I have 2.
Okay.
Cindy Curtis. The next speaker is Park Allen.
Are these, everyone in favor?
Mr. Allen is not, no.
Okay. Why don't we just have the individual who's not in favor speak, please?
Mr. Allen, would you come forward, please?
We welcome you today, sir.
It says relax and be respectful.
Please
Okay.
just relax.
Okay, I live across from the hospice where it is proposed to go in. I'm not coming to scream and holler and say what a terrible thing, because I think it's a really nice thing. I just want to express my concern with the land between the hospice and the Red Robin, which is fallow. Who knows what can come up, but we've got enough with the restaurants and their trash collections at 5:15 in the morning. We just don't need any more development along there. It would be nice to have a little bit of green left.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming down.
Sure enough.
I'll now go to the Vice Mayor and ask him to move forward with the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we do this consent agenda, I believe Mr. Greenham just wanted to make a comment about item 1. Would you like to come up and do that now, Mr. Green?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. It's not often I get the opportunity to come up here and thank you and approve of something that you're going to do. And I wanted to take that opportunity when I saw this on the agenda. I know, right? So, as you all know, I'm a member of the Tea Party, and as a member of the Tea Party, we're always glad to see when you look at opportunities to reduce taxes in our city, or at least create a level playing field for taxes. So on the broader issue of special taxing districts and tax incremental finance districts, we would prefer that we have equity in our tax system. So I would like to applaud you for your efforts to reduce taxes on people and continue with that trend in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. I will now go ahead and, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank
No, we're close to the public hearing. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval under the consent agenda, first under ordinances and resolutions. Item K1, which is an ordinance to amend the real estate tax levy for fiscal year 2018 to Bayville Creek. Item 3, which is a resolution to authorize and direct the city manager to execute the Hampton Roads Water Quality Credit Agreement. Item 4, which is an ordinance to declare excess city property at Upton Drive near Nemo Parkway and convey same to the Hospice House of Southampton Roads, Inc. Item 6, which is an ordinance to authorize a temporary encroachment into a portion of the city's waterway known as Bass Inlet West at 2837 Bluebill Drive in the Princess Anne District. Item 8, which is the add-on, which is a resolution to maintain a buffer of vegetation adjacent to the lake on the property owned by the City of Virginia Beach on Upton Drive, adjacent to the proposed hospice house of Southampton Roads.
Excuse me, Mr. Vice Mayor, are there speakers on 5 and 7 or something?
Yes, I understand there are.
I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
Just on the A, Your Honor.
What?
Just on A. 7A.
7A, not 7B.
All right, so I will include in the consent agenda item 7B, which is to transfer and appropriate $50,000 for the Community Services Board Complex Care Program.
How about number 5?
We have speakers.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you.
You need to declare.
Open a public hearing for planning.
Under planning for consent, item 1, which is Real Investment Associates, Inc., et al., in the Bayside District. On item 2, which is the application of James Kruseka and Mona Avenue and Associates, LLC, in the Beach District. And for indefinite deferral, the application of the Enclave at PABC LLC, both A and B, and for approval. And also, Madam Clerk, on item 1, would you note that the mayor is abstaining on that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And item 3, the mayor is also abstaining on that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Item 4, the application for approval, the application of Mogul Properties LLC in the Kempsville District. Item 5, the application of Bickford of Virginia Beach LLC, Larry B. Slippo, Princess Anne Road Investments LLC, and Courthouse Marketplace Station LLC in the Princess Anne District. Item 6, the application of Hospice House of Southampton Roads, Inc., in the Princess Anne District. Item 7, the application of Mermaid Winery at the Beach LLC in Foon and Bick Wong in the Bayside District. And item 8, the application of Milagros Montesa and Beach Holdings LLC in the Kempsville District. So moved, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 10-0, you have approved the consent agenda as read by the Vice Mayor with the exceptions of the the mayor's abstentions.
Council, I'm going to go out of order a little bit because there's only one speaker on items 5 and 7, and I want to get that done if I could, please. Item number 5, to grant the non-exclusive franchise to install, maintain, and operate wireless facilities and communication infrastructure.
Barbara Messner?
Barbara, we welcome you.
I have a question, and I sent an email today. Mr. Stiles? Mark Stiles?
We're listening.
Right. No, I had a question, and it's very confusing since you've taken over. We used to come here, we'd speak on an item, and you would vote on each one. You've rolled everything into consent agenda, and I raised my hand to ask the question, what was that included? Because sometimes it's the entire meeting. So I assume it was partial. So you're piecemealing the consent agenda into different items as they're pulled? Could someone explain that?
We're here to listen right now to
Okay.
you, okay?
Fine. Okay, as I said, the cell towers are dangerous. You added another bid, Verizon. I just think before you vote, you should defer it, because someone who might be concerned about Verizon being added on at the last minute, they might want advance notice to speak. Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the question, please.
By a vote of 10 to 0, you have approved the item.
Ordinance to transfer appropriate $250,000 from Tourism Investment Program regarding holiday lights modification. Speaker.
Reed Grenham.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. I had not planned to speak on this item. I came to speak on City View, but since I'm here, I would address this. My comment is broader in scope. I don't agree with the concept of the tourism investment program and the tourism advertising program. I think instead of transferring money with that over to the Convention and Visitors Development, what we should be thinking about is those monies should go into the general fund in the normal budgeting process. And those monies that we bring into our city from tourism ought to go through the normal process and be allocated out in a normal way. So I only wanted to take this opportunity to make this comment to you and have you please at least think about in the future not setting up these small little special accounts that funnel that tax money into a particular area. Y'all are here, and Patty Phillips just got an award for doing a great job on the budget. But the dollars flowing back into these accounts and being spent on these particular issues are not necessarily going to the greatest needs of our citizens, for example, dealing with flooding. So I would encourage you in the future to reassess the entire concept of a tourism investment program and a tourism advertising program. I'm an advocate of smaller, less government and less complex, and we have all of you as our elected representatives in our city. Here's an opportunity to streamline your budget process, reduce additional special accounts and funding items like that. And that's really all I wanted to say. It won't affect your vote, but kind of think about that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next
Barbara
speaker.
Messner.
We welcome you back.
Thank you. And thank you, Reed, for all your years of explaining everything and speaking out. Okay, first of all, I also sent a note to Mr. Stiles and all of you concerning the fact that the light show, Mr. Sessoms, you added that on. That was not publicly advertised. So we shouldn't even be voting on it. And you asked for a head count, a vote to see how people would vote ahead of time? That's pretty outrageous. Okay, the light show, $250,000 to fix, a temporary fix for rusty, worn-out decorations to fill hotel rooms in the dead of the winter, which restricts access to the public on the boardwalk for at least 2 months. I also watched the meeting, I believe it was on August 1st, where City Manager Tom Leahy told y'all that you should not have the light show because it was unsafe. People could get electrocuted. It was rusty. It had been neglected for all these years, and that it should not be on, it shouldn't be this year at all. Possibly next year if it could be fixed. And like Reed said, $250,000 for tourism is outrageous.
Thank you for your comments. Any other speakers?
That's all, Your Honor.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we accept ordinance 7A as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call for the question, please.
By a vote of 9 to 1 with Mrs. Abbott voting nay, you have approved the subject.
I'll now turn the meeting over to the Vice Mayor pertaining to item number 2, the ordinance regarding the development agreement for the City View 2 and authorize execution of the project documents. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, do we have speakers?
Yes, Your Honor, we have quite a few. And since we have so many, I will be calling 2 names at once. The first name will come forward and podium, and the other will come forward and be ready to speak. David Bickford.
We'll do that after we have the speaker.
Second speaker is Dennis Lloyd. Come on in.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. My name is David Bickford. I'm a resident of Virginia Beach in the Cypress Point District. I work at Town Center And I'm a board member of the Central Business District, Generation X, the Young Professionals of Virginia Beach. We are in favor of the City View 2 project. We think it's, it's consistent with the city's vision for how the SGA was designed, the Pembroke 4 SGA plan, and the Central Business District Master Plan. It is therefore that we ask to approve their requests. They've got all their approvals met, and it's consistent with how we wanted the city to be designed. And that's all. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis Lloyd and Rona Marsh.
Welcome, sir.
Hello. Vice Mayor, City Council. I'll make it quick and short and sweet. There's a direct correlation between freedom and taxes. And therefore, every municipality, every government needs to be responsible for their taxes or how they spend the money. This idea of a $10 million grant being provided in the way of compensation is gives unfair advantage to a company. Nobody else got it. Why do they get it? And I'm pretty sure that if you were to put all this stuff before the people, which I know wouldn't happen because it's not worth it in one sense, but I'm pretty sure they'd vote no, because they can see that you have this money that's being ill-spent. And the idea of reducing taxes, like real estate taxes, is a wonderful idea, because that gives people more freedom, because people have to work, they take time away from their kids, and it happens a little at a time. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Rona Marsh and R.K. Kowalish.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Jones and council members. I am here again. I spoke to you a few months back during the budget period. I talked to you about unfunded liabilities, and I come before you tonight because I am opposed to the corporate welfare that you're going to give to City View 2, the $10.2 million, which I feel is not beneficial to the city. I have a letter that I got from Nancy Bloom that was written by David Hansen. It is dated March 31, 2017, and I would like to refresh everyone's memory to some very large numbers that Mr. Hansen recognizes in that. And for this, I made a large sign in the hopes that everyone in the audience could see the numbers and we could all understand that $1 billion, that's with a B, $237 million worth of unfunded liabilities currently exists for our city. And this is before we go to GASB 68, which we are all going to have to deal with, and that will put the unfunded liabilities on our balance sheet. I think this is an important number that everyone needs to get in their head, and they need to look at each one of these items. We've got $667 million unfunded for the schools. They're only funded at 71%. We've got $337 million unfunded for the city workers. They're only funded at 81%. There are other cities, because I have sent you reports, the GASB report. Greensboro, North Carolina has almost fully funded their pension liabilities. It can be done. There are other cities that are doing worse. I recognize that. But I think you all need to really step back and realize that what Mr. Hansen said at the bottom of his letter is that post-employment benefits continue to be a significant consideration in budgeting. This is a large amount of the budget, and if we keep giving away $10 million when we don't need to, which is unfair corporate welfare to people, then what we're going to have is a shortage of money. And I don't think, since this is projected to be funded fully in 2043, I don't know how many of you will still be on council in 2043, but that's 26 years from now. And so I am concerned that we are going to be running out of money at the end of the day when nobody's here who's voting for this. And I do think that Moody's is also watching very carefully our credit rating, because I've read the reports, and I think we should consider very carefully every dollar we spend that doesn't fund our basic needs. Thank you.
R.K. Kowalewicz and Chris Stone.
Nice to see you again. Good evening, council members and taxpayers. I'm Richard R.K. Kowalewicz, as most of you guys know. You must defer the vote on the City View until after you fix the pervasive chronic conflicts and improper voting going on at Virginia Beach Development Authority. Last week, one of our commissioners, Mike Levison, got caught when it was discovered that he was cast an improper vote for this project. Levison, along with 2 more commissioners, were Town Bank insiders. But that didn't stop him from voting for $10 million of public money for the developer, Mr. Ripley, who was also a Town Bank insider. And Town Bank is also financing that project. This isn't the only time that Mr. Levison has failed to abstain. 4 of his votes earlier this year were also improper due to his Town Bank connection. Mr. Levison must resign from the Development Authority. But this leads to more troubling issue. 3 of the 11 commissioners who serve as officers in the Development Authority are Town Bank insiders. They control the agenda. Their overpowering influence on the board ensures that their collective outside interest in Town Bank will always be served, whether they abstain from a vote or not. The development of City View 2, Town Bank insider Mr. Ripley is an appointed member of the Planning Commission, where he sits alongside fellow Town Bank insider Michael Inman. How is it possible that 2 of 11 members of the Planning Commission also be Town Bank insiders? Just last May, you raised our real estate taxes to pay for all-day kindergarten. We have a huge problem with flooding, but now suddenly we have $10 million to give away to Town Bank insider. You're allowing Town Bank to make tens of millions of dollars in profit from interest payments. Developers are going to make millions of dollars of profit, and the citizens get nothing, except for loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars each year in real estate tax revenues that would go into the general fund. Let the developer get the loan from Town Bank and finance his garage. Government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. Taxpayers' money should never compete with the private sector. Mayor Sessoms pled guilty to public corruption, and here we are less than 2 years later, and it's happening again with one of his appointees. After his conviction, Mayor Sessoms made a comment to the media, it's going to happen again. And now we are here with a statement. Now we know why he made that statement, because it's happening again. We know that several council members have relationships with Town Bank. The city has over $65 million in deposits in Town Bank. And now we know why multiple appointees to the powerful Development Authority and the Planning Commission are Town Bank insiders. Council must fix these problems. Defer the vote till you can fix the problems on the Development Authority, the Planning Commission, and within council. It's your duty, responsibility, and moral obligation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chris Stone and Kim Schuler. Kim Schuler.
Welcome, Mr. Stone.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Jones, members of City Council, City Manager Hanson. My name is Chris Stone, and I'm the president of the Central Business District Association, representing approximately 170 businesses within the Central Business District and the Pembroke SGA. Earlier this year, Council identified a list of priorities that included 10 goals for the city, which supported the city strategic plan. The first goal was grow the local economy, with a stated high priority given to the Pembroke Town Center SGA. City View 2 delivers on that promise to grow the local economy and will add to the businesses and upscale retailers at the Pembroke Town Center SGA. It will have a pedestrian orientation, round-the-clock use, and both commercial and residential elements contributing to the quality and variety of our city while increasing the tax revenues. The city's Vision 2030, adopted by council, speaks to a community with diverse, distinctive neighborhoods, a diverse local economy, diverse living choices, a first-class resort, and a vibrant town center. City View Phase 2 supports the Vision 2030 and the Pembroke SGA implementation plan by creating a central urban core with a vertical mix of urban uses, great streets, and mobility. Recently, LifeNet Health announced an expansion that will create 321 new jobs with annual salaries of $70,000, and the planned 155-acre Virginia Beach Bioinnovation Park will most certainly bring similar results. With the city's efforts to establish Virginia Beach as a national center for biosciences, employees will be seeking the living choices, enhanced public amenities, and lifestyle that City View Phase 2 will provide. An urban lifestyle where residents and businesses can live, work, and play. City View Phase 2 has acquired all the approvals to proceed, follows all the city strategic planning initiatives, and expands the footprint of town center and beyond. The redirect of TIF real estate taxes follows the ordinance established by the district, and City View Phase 2 meets the criteria of the city's guidelines for evaluation of the investment partnerships for economic development. The agreement will enable the construction of structured parking without the city being required to issue debt or being responsible for ongoing costs or operation or maintenance. So I urge you to make good on your goal to grow the local economy, and on behalf of the Central Business District Association, I urge you to authorize the execution of the project documents for City View Phase 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
Kim Schuler and Michelle Riley.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm Kim Schuler, the 2017 Chair of the Hampton Roads Chamber and the Virginia Beach Division. And I'm here to speak in support on behalf of the officers and directors of the Chamber for the City View development. We endorse the development agreement and Ripley Heat Rolls Company and its efforts to secure the City Council approval for the following reasons. Indications are that it exceeds the criteria of the city guidelines for the evaluation of investment partnership for economic development. It is consistent with the vision for our city's urban core and strategic growth areas, and the development will allow for the expansion of the Thalia Creek Gateway. Hampton Roads has shown growth in providing live, work, play, lifestyle choices, and we must continue to do this to attract the workforce for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Riley, William Kowalski.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here tonight as a concerned resident of Virginia Beach and a taxpayer. I really wanted to be at our school board meeting tonight instead of here, but since you guys meet at the same time on the same night, I had to prioritize what area of my local government I wanted to engage in. Now, I'm the first to admit that I do not fully understand all of the inner workings, plans, and questionable partnerships that run our city. But what I have gleaned is that this board wants to give $10.2 million from our TIF fund to the developer of City View 2. I was of the impression that the money from the TIF fund was to be used to pay down debt on Town Center, not to incur more. This decision is the household budget equivalent of saving for my child's education and then deciding their senior year to pull it out and go on a vacation instead. When your roof is leaking, you don't go build a pool in your backyard. And right now, Virginia Beach's roof is leaking. As I've begun to pay closer attention to decisions that this board makes, I've also been led to wonder, do you work for us, the citizens of Virginia Beach, or do you work for the developers in Town Bank? It's sad when our elected officials have to recuse themselves from votes because of conflict of interest. Anyway, I know you're going to do whatever you want to do anyway, because I've seen it over and over. But know this, people like myself and others in this room are paying attention, and we know that 6 of your seats are up for re-election next year. Please restore our confidence in your integrity and vote against funding City View 2. Thank you.
William Kowalski and Reed Grenham.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm Bill Kozlowski, and I'm a resident of Aragona Village. I'm here today because I understand that while City View 2 is in keeping with the strategic growth goals of the city, I need to ask you to either postpone the vote or unanimously vote no today. There are 2 reasons I stand against this ordinance today, even though I'm willing to admit that I would consider to fairly and impartially weigh the merits of City View 2 in the future. First, I have not seen clear and convincing evidence that it is in the best interest of the city to provide up to $10.2 million, or that City View 2 actually needs this money to proceed with this development. Second, and more important to me, is that the voting yes today is at best ethically questionable. For the first point, I have to concede that the Development Authority sees enough value to vote in favor of the proposal, in spite of the issue with the person who should have recused himself. I also concede that without improvements to the real property, there would be no increase in property value for which to generate this incremental property tax increase that would end up going to the developer. But I do understand that removing this liability from the developer lessens the risk to Town Bank, which is the lending institution. Further, that money could otherwise help with stormwater management, education, police, fire, various other good uses that that money could be put to. And it's also, the developer gets a chance to double dip. Those property taxes that people who buy or rent in that area would then be diverted back to the City View 2. So, with that, I do not see how this handout is necessary for City View 2 to embark on what many citizens perceive to be a profitable endeavor even without the city investing. Which leads to my second point. Citizens of Virginia Beach have a credible reason to doubt the Development Authority has faithfully and responsibly represented the city in this matter. The article in the Virginia Pilot dated 11 August details how one of the members should have recused himself and failed to do so. At the hazard of sounding like I should be wearing a tinfoil hat, I must ask an important question. If one member can inadvertently miss a conflict of interest, perhaps others can be hiding them. To be blunt, I would be suspect of any yes vote today and encourage the city attorney to investigate ties between anyone who votes yes and beneficiaries of the development, whether it be Town Bank, special interests, or the developer. Why not allow the developer the opportunity to prove the worth of the project to the citizens of Virginia Beach at large? Put this vote to public referendum in November, or at least defer the vote. Don't jeopardize the trust we have in municipal leadership. Vote no or postpone. We will remember come November. Thank you.
Reed Granum and Pat Caldwell. Pat Caldwell.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, Mr. Hanson. This is the reason I'm here this evening. This is what brought me down here rather than doing the other things that I needed to be doing tonight. You've heard a lot of what I agree with. RK's comments, this last gentleman, Ms. Riley's comments. I'm not going to reiterate them. Instead, what I'm going to do is kind of talk about this even on a bigger, broader scope. I don't even agree with the concept of a political subdivision called the Virginia Beach Development Authority outside of you, my elected representatives, doing what it does. I would encourage you to go back to the General Assembly and get rid of it because it's your job to make these decisions. Now, in this case, you should be accountable and you should absolutely vote no of giving away this $10.2 million. It's really, really bad. I'm telling you, we as everyday people look at this as just outright corruption. So if you want to think about the optics of it, those of you that vote yes for this, you're giving us a reason to vote against you when you run for re-election. And it's not a threat, I'm just saying that's the reality of what you're doing. This development authority, with the fact that you appoint people who are involved in the development of these projects, what are you doing? Put people on the development authority who don't have a vested interest in it and who are looking out for the best interest of us. But you continue to appoint people who are directly involved in lining their own pocket. And you guys do that. You're creating this problem. You really need to go back and rethink the way you do these things, because those of us out here look at you and go, what are you? Are you all in bed with this corruption? And I don't think you are. But I don't think you understand how it looks to the rest of us. And just as every one of us said, you guys got priorities? We should be thinking about our flooding. We should be thinking about these other things. That $10 million, like the last gentleman said, could go to a whole lot of other things than just a benefit to this guy that wants to build development. And as far as the Central Business District Association speaker, of which I used to be a member because my office was in Town Center. I was a CBDA member. Look, He's telling you it's going to bring additional things. That's not true. This is moving people from one part of the city to another. There's no net gain out of this from us in the form of taxes. That's a fact. So I guess all I'm trying to say to you is this is a really, really, really bad deal. And I would encourage every one of you to take a stand on this and for once, surprise us. Vote no, do the ethical thing, and then go back to looking to clean up that development authority. Put people on there who don't have to recuse themselves because they're voting on stuff that benefit themselves. And I appreciate your time and listening to me. I doubt it's going to matter, but seriously, this is a really, really bad deal. Thank you.
Pat Caldwell and Ken Cord.
Show of hands. Anybody undecided? Just wondering. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you back to medieval times, which is where I think we sit today. Feudalism. Who went to school? Show of hands. Never mind. Feudalism. Historians' way of delivering social political system, which is key to medieval Europe. One person, one group, gave things to other people in exchange for something. In this case, it was the lords that gave the vassals property in exchange for the vassals doing something for the lords, usually providing knights to defend their castles. Who didn't do well in that society? The peasants didn't do well in that society. You all sit up here, with all due respect, as the lords, talking about giving something to the vassal, the developer, in exchange for what? Campaign donations? I don't know. I know a lot of you have received campaign donations from these folks. Part of this is our fault. As people have noted, we allowed you to serve us, and that was a mistake which I'm sure people are going to work on. But at the end of the day, what really matters here is that in accounting parlance, it's like you're awarding taxpayer money to them in exchange for something to you. In accounting fraud, that's called a round-trip transaction. I give you $1, Miss Wilson, you give it back to me, and we've created $2 in revenue. Yeah, great. Doesn't work. You all are not here representing the citizens. Everybody in this room is in favor for growth of this area, of this economy. 400,000 citizens want better jobs. Of course they do. You have to know that. But giving somebody $10 million of taxes, for what? For what? You get nothing back. Well, you guys might, but we don't. And this is serious stuff that you're doing. And you don't really, you sit there, but you've decided what you're going to do. Maybe you haven't. All I know is that I live by the mirror test. Can I look in the mirror every night? Can I look at my wife and not look at her in shame about something I do? I'm not doing my job in my life. And so far, all is good. But I live in fear of making that mistake every day. I hope you all will consider your citizens just once. Don't be the lords. Treat your peasants like they've earned something. Thank you.
Ken Cord and Barbara Messner.
I wasn't going to speak on some of the stuff that's been hitting the paper, but I'll speak on this. Last week, or not last week, but the last City View 2 meeting, I had a jewel, and I made a video on it, and I posted on YouTube. So, Duff, thank you. I appreciate it. Duff said that this project would be a great live-work / AKA village, which is what I've been talking about all this time. You guys want us out of our cars. You guys admit it on your own website, in your own PDF documents. So by having everything living where you work, well, there's no point to have a car. Well, how do you get around? Oh, that's why you guys don't want to let light rail go down. Eventually, you guys are going to have that come back in the picture. I keep reading it all over these periodicals. You think I'm stupid, you think I don't know what I'm talking about because, well, you guys know everything, and, well, it's just too complicated for me to understand. Well, you can't fool this peasant, because Mr. Duff proved me right. And as far as the whole taxes, yes, it is going to drive the real estate taxes down, which is the majority of the city's income. If you take all the upper floors, the second floor and up, what do you have left out of that mixed-use building? Establishments. So if you put an establishment next to a house, a single-family house, what do? You drive that income down, or the real estate taxes. So this crap of, oh, well, it's not going to, bring the economy down and taxes, et cetera, that's a bunch of crap. And I don't find it very acceptable for the two people that are sitting behind me, sitting here laughing and snickering, when this is serious business. It will affect you one way or another. That's all I really have to say. But I just think it's ridiculous that you guys are doing this. You guys have people on Town Bank doing the bidding, which I agree with, which should be your job, not abdicating your roles and your responsibilities.
Barbara Messner and Tim Worst.
Yeah, a lot of people said some of the things I was going to say, but when Reed asked the city attorney to investigate, the city attorney, as RK has told us, can give opinions. The rulings have to come from the Commonwealth Attorney or the State Attorney General's Opinion Council. And I would like to know, Mr. Davenport, you were part of Monarch Bank, which has been combined with Town Bank, so I don't know why you didn't leave the room with Will Sessoms, because your vote is a conflict, and the same for you, Miss Wilson.
I don't have a conflict.
You don't have any?
Nope.
Wait, I didn't finish. You're with Berkshire Hathaway,
When you finish, I'll comment.
right. You were with Berkshire Hathaway, which used to be Prudential Decker, and then when Warren Buffett merged with Town Bank, so you don't have any stock in Town Bank whatsoever?
When you finish, I'll comment.
Okay. That is my question. And also, your husband's CPA firm is attached with, well, that's another issue. I mean, like everyone said, everything is a conflict. On City View 2, I still, okay. Okay, it's taxpayer subsidy to private developers. Back when you had the first, this is the sixth phase. It's now called City View 2. The first parking garage was supposed to be only $7 million. You don't even remember that, Mr. Wood. And the citizens were up in arms against that because of traffic at Town Center. There's too much traffic congestion. We don't want to be in the free parking garages that you build. You build 8 private parking garages, 5 of them at Town Center, and you want another one? All this money should be going to infrastructure for residents. And like someone else said, it should be canceled and not deferred because there are at least 3 members with conflicts with Town Bank. Another, see the flashing light, another person who spoke who has interest in the project, one of the developers, talked about LifeNet. That's a South Korean company that we're giving $2 million subsidy to bring their employees here. Thank you.
Since I've been questioned, I would like everyone to know I have no interest in Town Bank. I'm not an employee. I'm not on a board. I don't have any loans. I don't have a credit card. I don't even have a checking account or stock with Town Bank. I am a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway, which if anybody knows anything about being a realtor, we are independent contractors. that we are in business for ourselves. I only make money if I sell a piece of real estate. So, anyway.
I'm sorry.
Your
I'm
time is
sorry.
up.
You've had your time.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So I
Please sit
have
down.
no interest whatsoever
Excuse me, I'd like to say something.
in
I'm wearing
town
hearing
bank.
aids, and I can't hear anything that anybody's saying. The acoustics in this room are terrible.
Sound system's on, isn't it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Are you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Next speaker.
Tim Worst and Dinah Howard.
I've learned, good evening, my name's Tim Worst. I am a Kempsville kid and now a Princess Anne District person out towards Lagamar. I learned a valuable lesson. I'll dress a little nicer next time, so I apologize. Just want to say my opinion and some of the reasons I would ask you to say no to City View 2. A number of reasons, and I love hearing the other folks speak here about what's going on. All the unfunded liabilities, and I thought that poster of showing what was on there, it's phenomenal information and things that you should look at before you make your vote. I also think there's a problem with that Virginia Beach Developmental Authority and some of the town bank things that are going on. And I don't have a problem being a Kempsville kid. I love the idea of Kempsville getting new and improved and having some of those things. My problem is with the $10 million that we pick and choose of who gets a break and who doesn't get a break. So if Joe Blow gets a house built over in Princess Anne near the high school, he or she doesn't get a break, but other parties get $10 million if they do this house or if they do this development. That's where I have a problem with it. So I would ask you to vote no. I don't think you need to defer it any longer. I would ask you to vote no. The things where I would like to see you to spend some money on is with the number one things that help us as citizens. The teachers who have our kids in there, and I had one that just finished and one who's still in, but the police cars that we don't have enough of, and they're constantly getting rammed around. Our police, our firefighters, our EMS, our sheriff's department, there are a lot of things out there we could improve upon rather than giving a developer or whomever it is that $10 million. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Diana Howard and Marlena Costelloso.
Good evening, everybody.
Well,
My name is Diana Howard, and I'm the chair of the Virginia Beach Tea Party, and we're still opposed to giving $10 million to this developer on the basis that it is corporate welfare. And there are several things that everybody has already said. One of the things that they haven't brought up was last time at the public hearing, the developer said that none of his property was in a flood zone. And Councilwoman Abbott was at our last meeting, and she showed us a map of part of their property, and it's like majority blue. That means it is in a flood zone. So that was one thing that we were concerned with because it is adjacent to Windsor Woods, and, you know, we have stormwater issues there, right? Also, the developer is kind of like extorting money, saying that, oh, if we don't get this $10.2 million for a parking garage, we're going to put in suburban housing. Well, put in suburban housing. Why should we have to pay for a parking garage when only a small portion of it is going to be for public parking, and the people that are living in there, they're going to have first dibs at it, because if they have more than one car, there's not going to be any parking left for us. Why should we pay millions of dollars for a few parking spaces, right? A couple of other things that came up that people talked about was the Development Authority, and there's 3 people there that have connections to Town Bank. Thankfully, 2 of them recused themselves and didn't vote for it. One mistakenly did, and he said that, somebody, could make a mistake. But in looking back over the year, he's done it 4 other times. So you think he would say, okay, 2 other directors there excused themselves, and I didn't 4 times. Maybe I should look into this and not do this again. I mean, how many times does it take before it gets a clue, right? So, anyway, I think that what we need is an audit. We should audit the Virginia Beach Development Authority as to see how many of those incentives that they've given to people that have conflicts of interest and determine, what the percentage is that go to town bank. It might be eye-opening. Hopefully, the Commonwealth Attorney is doing an investigation that was mentioned in the article, and maybe we can get an ethics committee, to look into what's going on there so that this won't happen again, right? Because it just looks bad. We have a planning director who is a planning commissioner who's also a town bank director, who's also a developer, and he has a project, and he goes to the Virginia Development Authority to get his project, which is funded by town bank, voted on, and the town bank director over there votes on it. It looks really bad, guys.
Marlena Casaluso and Linwood Branch.
Welcome.
Hi. Members of council, I'm Marlena Casaluso, Chair of Virginia Beach Taxpayer Alliance, and I won't repeat my remarks from the public hearing referencing the overt conflict of interest from our mayor and members of council that benefit from his $700,000 war chest, which the developers have campaign contributions for him. Rather, our memberships wants council to address the viper that continues to insert its venomous self into the life force of Virginia Beach citizens. And that viper, we've heard before, is Town Bank, which even it seems to regenerate even when its head, our mayor, their former CEO, is detached from the body. Looking at the recent published flow chart that details the incestuous relationship of City View 2 developers and Town Bank, I will only address a small portion of conflict of interest since organizations by the mayor's decree is reduced to 3 minutes. The Planning Commission, which appointed by council 2 members, surprise or Town Bank directors, Mr. Inman and Ripley. Mr. Ripley is a City View 2 developer and applied for free city money for parking garage. The Virginia Beach Development Authority, which created the terms of the $10.2 million corporate welfare incentive for council's approval, has another shocker. Michael Levinson, Town Bank Director, who failed to abstain and offers his failure as a mistaken judgment. Stephen McNulty, Town Bank Executive, and Brian Cuffey, an executive with none other than Bruce Thompson's organization Gold Key. He at least abstained. The never-ending conflict of interest of centering on Town Bank. Is City View 2 coming for a citizen bailout because of their inability to compete with the number of apartments and amenities aimed at the millennials that exist within 2.2 to 2.4 miles of town center? There are over 500 new apartment units, and that's not counting the 288 at Spence Crossing, with another 84 under construction for Stage 2 that also includes an extensive dog park. City View developers claim they offer what millennials want, but it's obvious they've botched their research, as a recent Harrison poll found that 33% of millennials say their first home purchase was motivated by wanting better space for their dog. 25% said marriage was the driving force, and 19% said having children. That 77% are home buyers. Virginia Beach citizens supposed just to hand out $10.2 million to City View because of their flawed planning. And VBTA is disgusted that the council and City View developers continue to patronize and vitiate the opinion of the millennial that's on council. Councilwoman Abbott would gladly explain to both groups how millennials detest corporate welfare, which is what City View 2 is. You need to vote no. Member Branch?
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Linwood Branch, and I am a member of the Virginia Beach Development Authority. I voted to approve this project, and I'm here to tell you why. The city's comprehensive plan is our community planning document. A great deal of citizen input goes into that document. One sentence stands out from that comprehensive plan: Virginia Beach is at a crossroads. We are running out of greenfield development space. The transition area is down to a few precious acres, and infill and redevelopment are our keys to the future. And the city spent a great deal of time with the SGA process and their comprehensive plan identifying those opportunities. One of those is the Pembroke SGA area. It's clearly defined, 1,288 acres. and the vision is clearly defined. It'll be our downtown with our highest density of residential, office, and commercial. Comp plan lays out the strategy for the development of this SGA. Develop the proper zoning code, which we have done. Connect Constitution Drive to Bonnie Road, which we have done. And I quote, explore the use of incentives for vertical mixed-use development throughout the Pembroke area. Now, Town Center has proven to be wildly popular with the public. Town Center's almost built out. Where do we go from here? Is this it, or do we follow the plan? And does this proposal meet the plan? Well, prior to the zoning changes, this piece of property was zoned office, which would have allowed for about 80,000 square feet of office and surface parking. In other words, the same old, same old. This project has 6 stories of mixed use, office, retail, resident, 126 key hotel, and parking garage. We've gone from 80,000 to 776,000 square feet of real estate on that property, greatly increasing the tax revenue that'll come into the city of Virginia Beach. And that's what it's all about, building our tax base. Now, we're using the same type of incentives that we used at Town Center. It's not general fund money. There's no $10 million that's coming out of the general fund. This is money that's coming from the incremental gain in the real estate value because we're making the project bigger. And 20 years from now, or 18, or whenever the public investment is paid off, all of that money returns to deal with issues down the road. So we're helping out future generations with these types of projects. There's no picking and choosing either. Any developer that meets the criteria in this Pembroke SGA is eligible for this program. Otherwise, they can choose to do the same old, same old. But the vision is to have an urban core in the center of the city, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. So I believe the city has set forth a sound plan to expand our tax base, to create a dynamic Pembroke area, to continue with a city that will thrive and prosper. This project meets all the criteria. It's another piece of the puzzle set forth in the comprehensive plan. That's why I voted for this project, and I encourage you to vote for it also. Thank you very much.
Before you leave the podium, Mr. Branch, there was a request by one of the council members to postpone the vote today in order for the Development Authority to have an opportunity to reconsider their vote. Has that occurred?
Yes, sir. That was brought up today, and the decision was to stand by our previous vote. It was unanimous, and based on the reasons that I have stated to you today. This is a sound project. It fits with our comprehensive plan. It expands our tax base, and it's a welcome addition to begin the prospect of moving beyond the confines of Town Center and developing the full Pembroke SGA.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next speaker.
That's all the speakers, Your Honor.
Yes?
If I may, there's
No,
a question that Development Authority.
I'm sorry, you can't do that. You've already had your chance. The lady there, though, if she'd like to speak, well, she can.
Please state your name clearly when you get to the podium.
Debbie
Pavon.
Pavon.
Thank you.
P-A-V-O-N.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, council members and fellow taxpayers. Even some of us who are here or on commission and hold positions and different things pay taxes as well. I felt a little uncomfortable with strangers who maybe work outside of Virginia Beach coming here to decide for us what's best for us. It's sort of like having an intruder in your house. You know that intruder's there, but you just, well, I know where the intruders are now. And I just wanted to read something to you that I think is applicable to us as council persons, certainly as citizens in general, but specifically for a grandchild that I have at Cape Henry Collegiate School. So we were looking through books and getting ready to go back to school, and We were reading over different things about the school, so I'll just read this to you. The Cape Henry School community honors moral principles that foster honesty and honorable behavior. Integrity reflects strength of character, dignity, pride, and ethical courage. And that's what I want you all to hear tonight. Ethical courage. Where is your ethical courage? As a community, we believe in and live by an honor code, respecting the rights of others, taxpayers who are suffering with flooding, and embracing what is morally and ethically right. Now, how do I tell my grandson that he has to be morally and ethically right, do the right thing, work in his community, be a good citizen, when we up here are not doing that? We are ignoring our base. We are ignoring people. Let's talk about it. Gains and losses. Okay, gains. Okay, there's going to be taxes, there's going to be people moving in. Losses. Wedding albums, report cards, pictures, heirlooms lost to flooding, never to be replaced. When you lay your head down at night on your nice, crisp pillowcases, or you have your $30 scotch at the top of a nice hotel in Virginia Beach, remember there are some people who are suffering. We suffer every single day, and you overlook it, and you don't care. If you cared, you would vote no, and you would keep the money for flooding.
Ma'am,
But no, we have 6 minutes,
Your
six
time-
six years to 10 years to wait for help.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
No, Your Honor.
Did you get that lady's name?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did not get her address, but I have her name.
All right. In order to get this done, I'll entertain a motion at this time. Mr. Wood?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. To get it going, I'll move that we approve.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made to approve and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, Ms. Abbott.
I just have some brief comments. I've voiced my opinion and my concerns on the project. Parking is a very big one of them, and of course, special incentives. There was a comment made at the public hearing by the applicant that's really stuck with me for the last couple weeks or so, and that was that this project is a millennial-friendly project. And what bothers me about that statement is that there is a firm and almost universal belief with the millennial generation, and that is that special incentives to those with above average means is appalling. And I have not seen anyone from my generation speaking in support of this project. But fortunately, I was elected and given the honor to not only represent my generation, but many generations who speak against this project. And I just cannot support this form of corporate welfare.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Henley?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I have several different things that are concerning me. I left the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago very concerned because of some of the things that I heard, to the point that I asked for a verbatim transcript of the meeting so I could go back over to make certain I heard what I thought I heard. But I kept hearing it again tonight. And there's this impression that we're giving away $10 million that is currently in the city coffers. And that simply is not true. I heard it over and over again tonight. We're giving these people this money instead of spending it someplace else. This is a program of incentives, incentivizing economic development. And I think maybe the basic question is a difference of a philosophy about whether or not we should incentivize economic development. And if that's the basic philosophy, then all of these comments should be from some other direction. That is whether or not we should use incentives in order to attract investment in the city, in order to attract business, in order to attract jobs. Well, if we decide that we're not going to do that, then we're going to be at a great disadvantage, because just about every municipality that I can think of does exactly that, as do all the states and so forth, and other countries as well. So it's important that we understand that we're not giving somebody $10 million that's currently in the coffers that could be used for flooding or teachers or something else. The money does not exist at this point. The money will not exist until this development is built. And I believe I'm right, and maybe someone will correct me if I'm not right, but this is based on, of course, the TIF, and I believe the base year for the TIF was 1999, and the properties in that TIF area had an assessment at that time of what their properties were worth. And since 1999, any of the taxes that have been paid by those people up to that base year go into the general fund. The increment above that, which has been generated because of the development and so forth in that area, for all of the properties in that TIF area, have been going into the TIF to pay off the debt. This property is in the TIF, and therefore that's the way their properties have been allocated. What will happen with this property now, if we approve this, and I believe that it's said in our information that the next base year is 2016. And so what will happen if we approve this is that that increment above the 2016 that accrues because of the new development will then go to be able to be recaptured by the developer for 25 years or 10.2 million, whichever comes first. And so this 10.2 million is not even there yet. It won't accrue until during this 25 years or up to the 10.2 million that it would be generated. But this property will continue to be paying into the general fund up to the 1999 base year, and into the TIF, that increment from 1999 to 2016 will still go to the TIF, and it's just this increment above. And I think that's really important, that everybody understands that we're talking about but for money, but for this development, this tax money would not be there. And I'm really sorry Mr. Moss is not here tonight, because I know that when we were talking about the arena and he was arriving at how he was going to vote in 2015, it was very important to him that no money, no tax money, was going to be going to the arena that was now going to the general fund. And he made that distinction, that it was only money that was yet to be generated that was going to pay for the arena, except in the arena's case, every single tax is going to go back to the arena, whereas in this development, only that increment of real estate tax that is appreciated or developed now, determined now, above what they pay in 2016. We're only talking about that increment. And I just see that as a major thing. It's not money that's coming out of the general fund. It's not money that's going into the general fund now. It's money that is yet to be generated. And actually, there are very specific things in the responsibility that have to occur, that the payments will not commence until after the payment of the real estate tax on the completed elements of Phase 1. So the developer is not even going to realize any of this until after he has paid the first real estate taxes that he will be paying on a completed element of Phase 1, and the authority has the right to terminate those payments if the entire project is not completed within 72 months of commencement of construction of Phase 1, or construction of the hotel is not commenced within 36 days of completion of Phase 1. So there's a lot of responsibility and a lot that has to happen. I certainly would not be voting or even considering voting for writing a check for $10 million or giving a grant or giving money that is now into the general fund to this developer or any other developer. Although we do have a tax incentive program that was put in place back in the 90s called EDIP, Economic Development Incentive Program. And this is a program of grants that we do make available to businesses who are locating or expanding. There's very specific things they have to meet as far as jobs created and so forth. And here's 5.5 pages of listings of businesses that have realized some incentive from that program. So this is not something we're doing for one developer. Then in 2001, this program was developed, which is the evaluation of investment partnerships for economic development. And so this is the policy that this particular developer is asking to participate in. And it was first developed in 2001, and we updated it in January of 2014 to clarify some things because there were some things that we thought needed to be clarified. And it sets down, it's several pages of things that anyone who chooses to apply for one of these investment partnerships, which really generate but-for taxes. And we have had several projects since 2001 that have been developed because of this partnership. So this is not something for this one developer. It's something that they have to jump through a lot of hoops, and there's a definite policy that we have developed, and they can apply, and it's up to the city council to determine whether or not to grant it. And so in all of the emails I've been getting and so forth, it seems to me that folks think we're writing them a $10 million check. And I just hope everyone realizes that that's not right. And I did hear Mr. Moss correctly last time when he said that he would be interested in hearing political theory or economic theory that it can explain to me why your development, you believe, is entitled to 100% rebate of your real estate taxes annually. And that certainly is not what this is. It's not 100% rebate of this development's taxes annually. It's only that upper increment. And this development, of course, is not the beginning of this. They have already developed a portion of it, and they have already done some things that were a great amenity to the city without getting an incentive payoff. They built that section of Constitution Drive, I believe it is, or Avenue, right, whatever it is, and the city cost participated. And another thing that's a tremendous amenity that this development and this portion of it, as well as the previous one, contributes to, and that's the Thalia Greenway. The Thalia Greenway has been a part of the outdoor plan at least since 2000, when the CBD was started, and it was realized that the Thalia, or that greenway, that waterway, would be a very important amenity. And I know, having been a liaison with the Open Space Committee, this has been something that they have tracked very, very carefully in being able to acquire the properties that will make that greenway possible for all citizens, but especially a good amenity for the Central Business District and Town Center. And this developer has already constructed one part of that. And this development going forward will allow the city to purchase another section and then continue the Thalia Greenway. So this has other amenities other than the parking garage, which is important, and having that parking garage on that side of the Central Business District and the SGA will allow other people of the public to appreciate and to take part in this part of the SGA. So I really have looked at this very closely, and I have gone through their application, I've gone through the requirements of the policy. They meet it, they exceed it, and I can look in the mirror and say I did the right thing when I voted for it.
Thank you, Ms. Henley. Is there any further discussion? If not, the vote is open.
Give me a sec, I'm sorry. It timed out. Go ahead.
With the mayor being absent, the vote is 7. Couldn't say 7-2.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now go to appointments. Ms. Wilson, would you do the nominations, please?
Yes, sir. For the community organization grants, I would like to nominate Brad Ramsey, Ellen Ellis. For the Development Authority, David Byrne. For the Human Rights Commission, Dr. Virginia Gentcote, Pac T. Barote, Nick Donano. For the MEDAC, Greg Nozel and Captain Charge Stuppard, PhD. For the Wetlands Board, Leonard Johnson. And for Opportunity, Inc., Shannon Kane.
Are there any further nominations? If not, the vote is open.
By a vote of 9-0, you have appointed those named by the Mrs. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any further business to come before the council? If not, meeting is adjourned.